Let's see. Get rid of the Zoom window. Can you all see my slide deck?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. So Dana and I made this slide deck yesterday, and we realized that since we're also doing some live demoing of Manifold itself, we were like, wait, how are we going to share this slide deck back and forth? So we'll see how this goes. Um, but yeah, so we're super excited about V9. Lots of new features in there. Um, and let's see, can I arrow key through? One of JoJo's amazing drawings. So the fox is our representative for V9. And we'll start just kind of by going through a lot of the major features that went into V9. And then we have kind of a list at the end of some smaller things that we'll just kind of mention, but we won't demo absolutely everything. Um, so I think as many of you know, one of the unfortunate sort of motivators for V9 was that bots found many manifold instances. And so the largest feature set in V9 is around spam mitigation and giving admins just more insight in general into their instance, into the annotations and reading groups and interactions that are happening there. So let me show you what some of that looks like. Um, so when you're in your admin section now, if you are logged in as an admin, in the records section, you have several new lists, including annotations and comments. And this will show you every single annotation on the instance. So this could be a whole lot depending on the size of your instance. Um, and from here, you can kind of link to a whole bunch of different things. So I can link to the user that created the annotation, the text that it's in, and each annotation also has a little detail view that will show me, what did the user write, when did it happen, who created it, and so from here you also have the ability to delete annotations. So just a lot more control there. These are also, there's some nice sort options here. So I'll say a little bit more in a couple minutes about how we updated the annotation flagging functionality. But you can filter and see just the annotations that have been flagged. So if you are worried about spam on your instance, you can go through and look at what have users marked, and hopefully you can get some sense in here of like, are there patterns and are there certain texts that we should go look at, or reading, public reading groups that we should go delete. So just trying to give you like a quick view into what's going on with your instance. The other new feature that's in here is this bulk actions. This is available on, I think, all of the new lists, annotations, comments, reading groups, and users. And this works sort of a lot like you've seen in your Gmail inbox, where I can select all on this page. Well, that doesn't work very well. Have to get more than one page's worth of annotations in here. I can select all on this page, or I can select all 200. Let's not delete all the annotations on the instance. There will be a confirmation warning if you actually click delete here. But this is nice because you can do a search, you can set your filters, and then you can delete everything matching those filters in one go. Yeah, so from here, let's see. So yes, so there's also new views for users. I forget whether the verification was new for V9 or that was something we released toward the end of V8. But now you can see pretty quickly, has a user been verified by an admin, or at least verified their email address, whether they're allowed to engage publicly on the instance. And then each user also now has an activity tabs, excuse me. And so you can see what reading groups the user is a member of, what annotations they've made. And so again, if there's users that are problematic, it should be pretty quick to see those in here. And same list for comments. And then there's also, how do I get this Zoom toolbar out of my way? Okay. And then if I go to reading groups, there's a kind of top level list in here for admins. So this was kind of one thing that we were missing prior to this. You could see all of the public reading groups in the front end. You could see all the groups that you were a member of, but there wasn't a way to see all of the groups that exist on your instance. On Edge here, we have many reading groups, but most of them are not very interesting. So let's pick one that has at least one annotation. But now you get basically the same group details that you get in the front end. You get a list of members, and then you also get a list of annotations by reading group. So again, lots of ways to search and sort of figure out um, what's going on in the instance. I think, yeah. Okay, so then let's jump over to the front end. So that's kind of all the admin views related to spam. But now if I'm in the front end and I'm have an annotation, instead of flag in the reader, it now says report. And that's sort of to make it clear to users. I know we had talked in the past that some folks were like, what does this flag thing do? And should I use it as a bookmark? And it was kind of just for you personally as a user. Even though admins did get emails about it, it wasn't clear, I think, to some end users exactly what it was doing. So we've relabeled it report, and you now get this little form which tells you a little bit more about what's going on here, and that this is specifically reporting the annotation to an admin. So if we report this annotation, um, I can do it right here. Go back to the annotations list. I like that one because it's easy to find. Now I can see that my flag just showed up in the admin. And as an admin, I can see all of the flags on this annotation. Um, if an annotation has been flagged by accident as an admin, I can resolve all flags in here, and then this annotation will no longer show up as flagged. But I can also delete it if I think, oh yeah, this really is a problem. All right. So oops, that was spam mitigation. And then the sort of second batch of big features had to do with better copying and sharing. So you'll notice in V9 that we have removed the um, the Facebook and Twitter integrations. Um, and we've replaced all of that with native share tools now. So most browsers and operating systems have a native share functionality that they support these days. And so exactly what you see when you click the share buttons will depend a little on what device you're using, what browser you're in. In Chrome on Mac, it looks like this, and it'll have all of the options that a user has enabled for their device for native sharing. This, for admins, this still tracks analytics for sharing just like it used to. So you'll see that on a resource. You will also see it in the reader. If I share, I get external app, and this again will open that native share functionality, which might look a little different depending on your browser. And then we also added this copy URL, which is pretty cool. And so it works best in Chrome, but if I hit copy URL here, it's gonna add this long string to my URL. But what that is it's a text fragment, and it signals exactly which text on the page that I've highlighted. So if I navigate to this URL, did it work? Oh man, let me try again. Okay, my browser is not doing it right. That's annoying. Um, anyway, if you have a browser that supports it, it will take you to the page with that particular text selection highlighted. Maybe if I do it again, it'll. Anyway, sorry about that. So yeah, so sharing, we've removed and also if you're on like the detail page for a project, you'll no longer see the Twitter activity, things like that. So we've removed those integrations and migrated over to native share. Feature number 3 is resource list display options. I know This is something that folks have asked for multiple times. Um, if I am managing a project and so one thing, it used to be the case that you didn't have a lot of control over on the project detail page. If you displayed a resource collection or which resources showed up in that content block on your project detail. So we've now added this featured flag on resources. So I can come in here and I can set this to featured, and then that will make the featured ones pop up to the top. So if I have a project collection that has, or sorry, a resource collection that has, 30 resources in it, but I have three that I want users to always see right away when they go to that collection, featuring them will make that happen. And then also in the project itself, when I go to the resources content block, um, there are some new options here. So this will be for the project homepage. I can say show resources in addition to collections. So you can turn this off if you only want to show project collection or resource collections on the project homepage. You can do that. You can also pick specific resources to show. So the default will be the first 10 resources associated with the project, again, with the featured ones popping to the top. If you want to display only a certain three, you can do that just by adding specific resources here to the display list. Where does that get us? Were you taking this one, Dana?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So let me share my screen. All right. Is that showing up for everybody? The same slideshow? Okay, cool. So yeah, reading group homepage improvements. Whoops, we made some small improvements to the reading group homepage. Let's see. So one thing we added was markdown blocks. We heard from some users that it would be nice, not everything is a category to put different collectible resources from Manifold into. It's nice. It'd be nice to also have the option to just add some kind of uh, text content to the page. So we've added markdown blocks. You can provide a title. You can put any kind of content into this. They support markdown syntax, so you can add headings, italics, bold, etc. And save those. And then those are dropped right into the interface here for editing, and I can move those around wherever I want. I can put them in between categories. And so it's just a way, especially for people who are maybe building like a syllabus on here, if they want to provide some kind of prefatory introductory material content to different categories of collectibles. That allows that to be possible. You might also notice if you've used this on previous versions of Manifold that we've just kind of tightened up the interface here for editing. I think before all of these were expanded at all times, and so it just made if you had a lot of material on here, it just made this page very long to actually interact with, and it's a drag and drop interface, and so just not super user friendly in terms of actually managing it. So by default now, all of these are collapsed. I can drag the categories around as well as the markdown blocks. Within here, I can expand these and grab a single project, journal issue, text, etc., and move it up here, and I can just drop it directly onto the category that I want to move it to. Where did that go? Let's see. Let's try it again. Yep, and now that shows in the category that it's been dropped into. Another thing we did was, drag and drop interfaces aren't everybody's cup of tea. There's also accessibility considerations with drag and drop. And so we wanted to provide a better alternative for users with vision or motor disabilities, and just users who might prefer to manage manage their reading group content a little differently. So we now have this toggle or this button that is what you click to drag is also just can be clicked a single time. It's also keyboard accessible. And so I can open it with keyboard and toggle with my arrow keys through. And you'll see the set of options I have available for each of these things. To move it down one position within the category, I can also move it up to another category, and it will move my focus to that element now in the new category. I won't demo it, but we've done the same thing. I think this is the only drag and drop interface we use on the front end of Manifold, but in the admin, there are quite a few, and we've made the same change here to those interfaces around keyboard accessibility and just making those providing a better alternative to drag and drop to managed interfaces where content is sortable. Let's see. Let's go back here. Video text tracks. So this is one thing we have not offered in previous versions of Manifold, but an important accessibility consideration that we wanted to provide editors a way to add text tracks to videos. So let's see. So Manifold v9 now supports adding captions, subtitles, descriptions, and other metadata to video. If I go to the admin here, we've added a new subpage for video resources called tracks. This is aligned with the HTML track element, which is kind of the standard HTML standard way to provide time-based metadata for audio and video. And so kind of in alignment with that, let's see, well, let me back up. So yeah, so tracks are provided through what's known as the web VTT format. I can show you a quick example. Let's see what that looks like. So it's basically a text file that has kind of a standard format to it. You'll see some timestamps and then the caption or subtitle or description that corresponds with that timestamp. So we now allow editors, admins, and Manifold to upload as many text tracks as they want to provide for a given video resource. With the kinds that are available kind of align with that HTML track element. And you can specify the kind. You can create a label that will be shown on the front end, a language if you're providing subtitles, what language that corresponds to, and then upload the VTT file. And any that are provided there, if I take a look at this, will be embedded inside of your video element as a track element and provide some attributes. And then we rely on the browser's built-in video functionality. And so you can see I can turn on captions for that, the ones I've uploaded. We are in the process of adding this for audio resources as well. That's not available in V9. We're doing some Manifold currently has a pretty old audio library that we use for playing audio on the front end, and we that does not support tracks. So we are in the process of replacing that, and so we can also you can look forward in the next version of Manifold to being able to provide captions, etc., for audio resources as well. High contrast annotations. Oops. So in the Manifold Reader, for those familiar, we indicate annotations, highlights with these fairly subtle underlines and kind of background colors. For users who perhaps have low vision or contrast perception impairments, or just might prefer to just see these colors a little more with higher contrast, we've implemented support for that. We're doing that as an integration with the operating system's built-in high contrast mode. So if I open that up here, I'm on a Mac, but this is available in Windows as well. So in Mac, there's an option in the operating system settings to increase contrast. And if I do that, you'll see that manifold changes to create a much more visible color to indicate annotations and highlights. Works in dark mode as well if you like to use that in the reader. And yeah, so that is available. Go ahead and turn that back off. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is maintenance. We did a lot of maintenance work for V9. This isn't as exciting as building new features, but it's super critical for the longevity of Manifold, and it provides the foundation upon which we build new features, and so it's something we try to really prioritize. Is doing kind of ongoing maintenance work. So I don't have anything super exciting. It's a demo for this, but I can I'll point out a couple things. On the back end, the back end of Manifold, we did a bunch of upgrades. We moved from Ruby 2 to 3, from Rails 6 to 7. And we also removed Elasticsearch, which is what powered search functionality in Manifold. And we replaced that with Postgres full text search functionality. So yeah, we're always looking for ways to, we want to keep the underlying dependencies of Manifold up to date. We want to remove or replace things that are no longer maintained or just maybe are not needed anymore. And just generally look for ways to kind of modernize the platform. On the front end, we upgraded a lot of underlying dependencies, the dependencies we use for building Manifold, the underlying kind of libraries that power the interface of Manifold. We also, if you see here, we just removed a whole bunch of stuff, things that just Manifold doesn't need anymore, that have been around for a long time, or things that maybe browsers, CSS, JavaScript do natively now that we just don't need third-party libraries for. And this kind of work is really important. I mean, you can see in this one, we removed over 40,000 lines of old code from Manifold. So this is the kind of work that will keep Manifold healthy and going for a long time if we continue to do this. And I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it back to Lauren to talk about a few more things.
All right. Am I back with the slideshow? Cool. So we'll just go through these pretty quick. But there's just also, so those are the big things in V9, but there are quite a few smaller improvements as well. So some key ones. We have better UX for comment threads. You might have noticed when you were looking at a list of comments on reading groups that sometimes it was hard to know exactly how many were in there. The loading behavior wasn't ideal if a thread had more than 10 comments. So we've now added this little count, and then you can expand and collapse comment threads so that you can see, if you want to reduce vertical space on your page and sort of just see the top level comments. So some nice just quality of life features on that page. We've made some optimizations for citations. There was already citations in the reader for text sections, but we've now added this citation override field. You'll see it. This is in the properties drawer on a text section. It's also on a text in the metadata and also on a project. And if an editor puts in a suggested citation, this will be displayed in the reader instead of the options for the Chicago and MLA and different formats. It also now appears in the footer in the reader if you've put in a suggested citation for the text as a whole rather than just for the particular section. Annotations are now shown on resource details. So now you can find which texts this resource is cited in and navigate back and forth much more quickly between the resource detail and the text. More on resources coming in V10. I'll let Zach talk about that. We've also improved the UX on the My Notes page. We've added a lot of new filters, so now you can sort, especially if you're a heavy manifold user and you have lots of different annotations. You can see just private and public ones. You can sort by group and by text here, so a lot easier to find what you're looking for. And then there are also some new editor roles. I know that the journal editor was something that's been on people's minds. So you now have within a journal the ability to add editors who can then update that journal in all of its issues, and you don't have to add people to issues individually. And there's also this on projects, this modify resources and texts set of permissions. So someone who can't touch the top level project and its metadata, but can update all of the resources and texts. Um, we've also sort of made the way we generate Open Graph metadata much more consistent across different types of records. So you'll now see these fields on projects and texts and resources too, I believe. So they're a lot more universal, and it's going to be a lot more consistent just in how these are inherited. So we've made some nice choices about if I don't fill these fields in on a text, what the defaults will be, how they'll inherit from the parent project. So you should get much better OG metadata in your sharing. And here's another list. It goes on, but there's some small accessibility fixes. We've added query params to admin. So if you're searching with filters, when you use the forward and back navigation in your browser, you won't lose those filters. We've made it so that highlights, you only see your own highlights in the reader so that a bunch of other people's highlights don't clutter up your reading experience. I think Dana showed this already, but you can upload transcripts as well as those caption tracks for audio and video resources. We've added some new analytics, some new sort options for the different library lists in the front end. And that's what we got.
Maybe before questions, I'll just jump in and say a few words. So, you know, I was reflecting this morning on the fact that the first commit to Manifold was in September 2015. So this is the platform that just turned 10 years old. And there's real challenges, I think, with any platform of that age. Just, the technology that you used 10 years ago, which was new and cutting edge, may or may not be so new and cutting edge 10 years later. And, all modern web software is composed of languages, libraries, framework, hundreds, if not thousands of dependencies kind of exist below the code that we write for Manifold. And that's not even getting into like infrastructure level pieces like the database server, the web server. So the kind of is just complexity all the way down. And so, Manifold, I think as a team over the last couple of years, we've become kind of more focused on thinking carefully about how we deal with this technical debt and trying to kind of maintain a development culture where we strike a real balance between adding new features and paying down technical debt and doing maintenance. And so I'm really personally excited to see us moving in both of those kind of twin directions on this release. And to that end, we'll be doing more of that in V10. So right now, V9 has been released to all of the hosted Manifold Digital Services clients. You all have been on V9 for many weeks now. We have not published packages, open source packages for V9 yet, because that is one part of the Manifold stack that I think hasn't aged very well. We made kind of the choices we made in Manifold itself were to use React for the front end and Rails for the back end. And both of those things have continued to be well maintained, popular, stable. I mean, React basically has taken over the whole front end world. Those were both good choices that have aged well over the last 10 years. I think the technology we used for packaging Manifold, which is based on Chef and Omnibus, has not aged as well. And the packaging aspect has become quite complicated and difficult to maintain over time, which is why we've held off on building these V9 packages until we're pretty confident that we've worked out some of the regressions and bugs that have shown up in V9. And so just to kind of give you all a sense of where we're at right now, we're probably deploying new updates to V9 every couple days, maybe once a week to the MDS clients. When we feel that that is fully stable, we will then publish the V9 packages. Manifold version 9 is the last version of Manifold for which we will be publishing and maintaining these operating system packages. I don't think we have the resources, nor do I think the packages allow us to release new versions of Manifold at a frequent cadence, which I think is important. And so we're going to be moving basically all the MDS clients and the open source, non-paid clients or users of Manifold to a Docker-based approach for deploying Manifold. And that's being worked on now. I just want to reassure people who have an instance of Manifold that's on these packages that we will be providing like detailed migration instructions as well as some automation so that you can back up all of the content from your package version, from your V8 or V9 version Manifold, and get it into the new environment. And I think as a project, we have a really strong history of making upgrades easy. I mean, I know they're not always perfect, but we get a lot of feedback saying, yeah, it was no problem upgrading to 6 to 7 or 7 to 8, because we do spend a lot of time thinking about that path. And so you can expect that same attention as we move from V9 to V10. Once we get on V10, one of the big advantages, I think, will be a more frequent release cycle and also easier updates to underlying infrastructure. So there are some places in Manifold where we don't have dependencies on as recent a version as we'd like. So for example, we're still on a pretty old version of Node for Manifold. And the code to Manifold itself, we've already made compatible with newer versions. The issue is deploying newer versions of Node onto operating systems that the instances are hosted on. So kind of decoupling, using Docker and containers to decouple the instances from the underlying hosting infrastructure will simplify a lot of things for us. So for V10, you can expect more maintenance work, kind of some of which you'll see, some of which you won't. I think the kind of centerpiece feature of V10 is going to be a pretty complete overhaul of resources in Manifold. So the team has been going through and kind of redesigning the various ways that resources are shown, and also expanding how resources can be embedded in the reader. So that in addition to like resources as marginalia, there's also kind of like big block level presentation of resources within the text itself, which will make it possible to, like embed a slideshow or a collection of resources in the body of the text, or maybe an interactive resource or a video, etc. We're also have done some work around exposing content in Manifold over OAI PMH feeds. That work is kind of done and in a pull request, just waiting until V9 settles down to get into the main branch. And then I expect we'll see more accessibility fixes. I don't know if we're talking about that today, but the team is doing a lot of accessibility work on Manifold, so more on that front. And then, perhaps a handful of other features. So Manifold is alive and well. V9, we're wrapping it up. And V10 will be coming out before you know it, because we've already done a lot of the work on it, in fact, and are just kind of waiting to stabilize V9 before we turn our attention back to it. That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Zach, and Lauren and Dana. Thank you all so much. We're just incredibly grateful for the work and the time that our partners at Cast Iron Coding have put into the new version. So thank you all. I didn't see any questions in the chat per se. Did anyone, I know it's a lot to absorb, but if you have anything, any questions either about V9 or kind of the road ahead, moving to Docker, anything like that, we do have one more small piece to the meeting, if no one has any questions. Matt Gold is gonna update us on the progress with getting a VPAT for Manifold. But I just want to pause for a moment. Any questions so far on what we've heard? Okay, you can. Okay, I don't see any hands or anything in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Matt. And if any questions come to mind, feel free. We might have a moment at the end to get to those. So go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Eric. So we did want to update you, as Eric said, on our accessibility work. We are, thanks to funding from the CUNY Office of Library Services, we are getting a VPAT, a voluntary product accessibility template for the Manifold platform. We are working with a vendor, TPGI, and it's a pretty involved process where they do an initial review of a set of components for Manifold, give us an accessibility report, and then we remediate issues as we can and produce the final VPAT. So we are at the stage where we've gotten their initial review. Lauren and Dana have been working hard to address the issues they've identified, and there'll be a little bit more back and forth on that. We expect to have the VPAT in hand in roughly 2 months or so, and we will be publishing that publicly on the Manifold website. We've heard from Manifold clients and prospective clients that that is increasingly needed with next year's coming accessibility rule changes. So we just wanted to let you know that we're working hard on that, and we're excited to move that forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Matt. And thanks for everything you've been doing on that front and that work. I do see a question coming through the chat. This might be one for Terrence or Robin, perhaps, but Joe Rogers, Minnesota State, Mankato. Hey, Joe. Where can we review previous Manifold webinars, tutorials, etc.? We do have a few of them up we have a YouTube channel, and I'll try to put this one up on there as well. But Terrence, would you have any insights there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the YouTube channel was the first thing I was going to say. And then for clients who go through training, we record all of our training sessions, and then it's available to those groups to review, just for review or as new team members join. So it's available to them, but we don't have a public channel for those because those are private meetings with those individual groups.
Oh yeah, and that's great to see Karen with OEN resources as well there. And CUNY has some stuff up that Matt's posted too. Any other questions for Zach, Lauren, Dana? We have a lot of other experts, a lot of expertise on Manifold in the room. Or if anyone wants to, maybe I'll pause our recording now and we can have a more informal chat if folks want to.